Ned.
I'm Ned Tebbets. I was the former chairman of the Board of Selectmen here in Cohasset. And 30 years ago, I worked with Michael Dukakis when he was governor on pension plans, defined benefit pension plans, which cover all public school teachers in Massachusetts and all state government employees. It includes the employees and beneficiaries, widows and orphans in some cases. Michael Dukakis had a plan to eliminate the unfunded liability on these plans over a period of 25 years. Well, that hasn't begun to happen. The unfunded liability in these plans is much larger than it was when Michael Dukakis was governor. It's in the order of $40 billion, or translated, it's roughly $7,000 or $8,000 for every one of the 6 million citizens of Massachusetts. And I'm wondering what plans your administration has for dealing with this problem, because it's not dealt with. Either the benefits won't be paid in full, or it's a huge obligation for our children and grandchildren.
Well, the federal government has done some things in the last several years which are requiring states and municipalities to have a plan, you know, in terms of maintaining the kind of financial viability of the different pension systems. And so cities and towns have had to begin to kind of create some plans and putting those together, and states as well. And we've done two things just in the last year. I mentioned kind of the first iteration of pension reform was to go after some of those abuses that we have seen, where people have taken advantage of loopholes that were out there. If somebody worked as a Group 1 employee their whole life, 20, 25 years, and then maybe the last year worked at a public safety position, became a Group 4 employee, where they would get a much higher pension, you know, than they would have if they stayed in Group 1. We saw how people were claiming housing and different things, really not with, I think, the intent of what was meant on these pension plans. So we were able to curb a lot of those abuses, many of which we read in the newspaper. Globe did a series of articles, people claiming volunteer service or part-time jobs, and so we were able to successfully eliminate a lot of those loopholes. The more recent legislation that we have filed, you know, recognizes that people are living longer now, and because of that, taking more, you know, in the pension than maybe actuarial scales and projections that estimated 15, 20, 30 years ago. So one of the proposals is, you know, pushing the retirement age back, out a little bit. When people retire now, it's usually 80% of their last 3 years. One of the things is making it 80% of the last 5 years. So there's some things that we're doing which will save, we think several $billion and help maintain the integrity of the systems and allow us to kind of meet that schedule in terms of addressing the liability, and we're working on that as we speak. But let me just say one thing that it is important to mention, is that the average state in pension is less than $25,000. And again, some people you listen to them will lead you to believe that everyone's walking out of there with like $100,000 a year. It's about a little less than $25,000, and many of those employees are not receiving Social Security. So I just think it's important. If, there have been abuses that are unacceptable. We've helped curb them. We've got to make some decisions that aren't always easy, but if we're going to maintain the viability of this for people, you got to make sure that it's sound. So, there's going to be, I think, some work done over the next several months. Certainly, I think by the time we wrap up in June, there'll be some further efforts made to strengthen the system, because we have to.